welcome to tonight's episode of A Shot of Sublime. Now, for this first Shot of Sublime, we'll be talking about the band's origins in 1988 up through the release of 40 Ounces to Freedom in 1992. Alright, so the band formed after Bradley Nowell introduced Bud Gaw and Eric Wilson to reggae and ska, while they, showed their punk leanings to Nowell, and they decided to form this fusion band out of this, called it the Long Beach Sound, And soon after forming the band, started churning out some demos here and there. Oh, I'll get to the demos in a second. But after writing and just playing house parties and just going around, they were jamming all the time, making sure nailing the sound down, and they formed their label Skunk Records. And they would also play at clubs and ultimately parties, alongside the Skeletones, Smokestacks, and No Doubt, who they would later collaborate with and would frequently tour with, especially on the club circuit. So they recorded their first demo in 1988, called the Zebeda demo. And that featured Eben, the same version you find on Everything Under the Sun, Romeo and New Realization off of Secondhand Smoke. Then we got Roots of Creation and Date Rape Styly. I think it's just labeled Date Rape, but I think it might be the same. That's labeled as Styly on the Everything Under the Sun. Roots of Creation's on there too. Although Date Rape Styly does appear on the label of a demo a little later. It's a little bit later. And there's a demo of Ball and Chain from 88 or 89 that's featured in Everything Under the Sun. But that might have been mislabeled, because I think that may have been from Ja Won't Pay the Bills. Not positive. I actually haven't compared those two side by side. I just sort of had that thought. But before we get to Ja Won't Pay the Bills, we have February 1990, where Lou Dog is adopted with Brad's Dalmatian, who was mascot for the band. And then they, sometime in 1990, they've recorded, pressed, and handed out around 50 or so cassettes of the blandly titled C003 cassette, which had Don't Push, Ball and Chain, Slow Ride, and Date Rape Styly. These ones were recorded after meeting Miguel Happel, which my note says late 1990, but I recently read that this would have been more likely late 1989, so they recorded this demo in 1990, and then the later 1991 and 1992 recordings, which were all done in the studio of California State University, a studio that they would nickname Mambo, and they would do this in secret. The studio would officially close at 9 p.m., but they would sneak in there at 9:30 and play and record and dick around until 5 a.m. And they would just keep doing that. So by the time they recorded 40 Ounces to Freedom, they estimated that they had used about $30,000 worth of studio time for free with no one suspecting a thing. Pretty dope. Okay, so they recorded that demo, and that started to spark serious interest for them in the Long Beach community and greater area, LA area, greater Southern California. And they played a 420 show, which happened to be some fan's birthday party, and some of this was recorded. And on this April 420 show, 1990, they performed Don't Push, Smoke Two Joints, and Eben, which you can find videos of, as well as Fighting Blindly, New Realization, Ball and Chain, a freestyle, Legalize It from Peter Tosh, and Stir It Up from Bob Marley. Sounds like a fun show. And then they would resume recording. Obviously, they never really stopped. I mean, I don't really know the exact dates for any of these, but we know when they were released, because Sublime was pretty diligent about, and Skunk Records was pretty diligent about getting their stuff on the streets. So they would press, like, it seems like they pretty much capped out at like 50 pressings of any individual tape before refining it a little bit. Like maybe they would do a different color for the card in there. Rarely revising the track listing, but maybe the art and everything going with it. They might edit. They might decide not to pursue some thoughts that they had already been pushing out there and just edit some of the blackout, some of the cassette, like they would do in 1993, for instance. Okay, so they record the Ja Won't Pay the Bills tape, which featured DJs, Badfish, Let's Go Get Stoned, New Song, Had a Dat, and then presumably just the same recordings from the C003 cassette of Don't Push, Ball and Chain, and Slow Ride. Curiously, no date rape, but perhaps this is, by this point, they've got grander plans for that song. And possibly have already been working on that, because in 1992, they were working on the rest of 40 Ounces to Freedom, which features like, oh, well, Don't Push, like everything was re-recorded. I think just, no, maybe not. If anything wasn't re-recorded, it would only be DJ's Badfish, Let's Go Get Stoned, a New Song, and I'm pretty sure Let's Go Get Stoned was not re-recorded. I'd be surprised if New Song was, but certainly Don't Push was re-recorded, and Ball and Chain would be recorded as the medley following Toots and the Maytals 54-46. And it wasn't actually only Miguel who produced on this album. I mean, Sublime self-produced, and some person known as Elephant Levitation, but it was still recorded in the Miguel way, and I think he was still engineering, but in the Miguel way at Mambo. So let's do this. With the Sublime produced songs, we got Waiting for My Ruka and 40 Ounces to Freedom. Looks like that is it for that. And then on the Miguel produced, we have Badfish, Let's Go Get Stoned, likely from the Ja Won't Pay the Bills, like I said, Smoke Two Joints, and Scarlet Begonias. All the rest of the tracks here are done by Sublime with elephant levitation, and I have no other information on who or what elephant levitation was. It was just a pseudonym for Miguel and other fellow students. I don't know, maybe, but they get credit for Get Out, which was on the original configuration. Here, I'll do the track listing right after. We're Only Gonna Die for Our Own Arrogance, Don't Push, 54-46, Ball and Chain, New Thrash, Live at Ease. Ooh, Kate, it says DJs was not. So DJs, I guess, was redone here. So DJs by Elephant Levitation and Sublime. Chica Mi Tipo, Right Back, What Happened, New Song, Eben, Date Rape, With Rawhide, Hope, KRS-One, Rivers of Babylon, and the Thanks Dub. So yeah, I guess you kind of got the order there. Just throw in, the tracks that are already named off before. You should know the order of this album by now. This doesn't get mixed around too much. That is it. That is it for the 40 Ounces to Freedom and earlier period. And ultimately, Sublime's live presence was huge, dude. They played all the time. Big or small, it didn't matter. They just enjoyed it. Enjoyed being out with the fans and partied it up. Well, that's it for this shot. Tune in next time and get higher with Sublime.